You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Wake up to the world you've been missing. Time to jump out of bed in the morning. No day, no life, now we're living. Can you feel it in the air that you're breathing? Time to show 'em what you're made of. Let's get back on track. Are you ready for a come on? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Are you ready now? You're lifting off the ground. Welcome back. No coming down. Can you feel it all around? Welcome back.
Welcome back to Super Mega Crash Beyond. I was singing before and now I'm singing to you. I didn't
Sorry.
keep a rhythm.
It's lovely.
Well, I tried.
Love it.
I'll
Yeah,
work on
it's our
it.
new
Maybe I can
intro.
make a better song next time as opposed to trailing off into whatever I did. Anyway, hi, siblings.
Hi.
Stephen White, Lacey Finley.
Happy Monday.
You know us. We're back
Yeah,
doing
we are.
things and stuff.
Welcome
stuff.
back. Guys, you're singing it right now. It's
Yeah.
a catchy little tune.
I'm hoping it was an earworm. So every time, kind of like the other theme, because I know it became an earworm for you because every
Oh,
time
yeah.
we'd finish and you say game on at the end, you start humming the theme.
I did. You guys
Every
see a little
time.
behind the scenes, like game on, do 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 do, and I had to do that every time. Could not.
I mean, if she had recorded that section of herself doing that and I had, access to all of that, I could probably put together a supercut of just her doo-doo-doo-doo at the end.
How many episodes?
Yeah.
Like
it's
100 or something?
So many.
Doing it? Oh dear. Yep.
But, if she hadn't done that, I think I would have started to worry because I got so used to it happening. It was just like, and cue.
And this is what's going to happen right now. Yep.
It's like Happy
Yeah.
Monday. Everyone gets to hear that, but that was kind of my Happy Monday. I had to hear that every week.
Yeah, that's true. You did. It
Mhm.
was. It was directed at you each time.
And
You know,
I'm
looking right at
happy
you.
for it. It was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it could. There are a lot worse things in the world that you could have done, and
Sure.
at least that was amusing to me. And I was just like every time, and that's cool. It's just a little earworm. She's like,
Sometimes it can be just for us,
yeah. It was
You
something
know?
for us that we have now shared.
right? And
But-
now it's for y'all to wish you had been present for. I know
Mhm.
you're jealous.
You are.
They all heard me sing karaoke on Twitch. They jealous.
Have they? Some of them,
Well,
maybe.
some of them.
Some of them.
Maybe.
And now,
Sorry. Or you're welcome. I don't know.
but now you have like a whole group saying, "Wait, what? You did what now?
I did
Can we
what?
see this?"
Yeah, well, it might still be up there.
I mean, we can't guarantee anything, but you can go look.
That's true. It's probably somewhere.
hmm
Internet, like, things live forever. So I'm sure it's, I don't know. Whatever. What are we talking about anymore?
I don't know. Speaking of that, I was trying to do some cleanup. Well, I was trying to gather some footage together because just a little something that I don't want to go too deep into it, but I lost some of my video footage at one point because one of my what do you call them? External hard drives got damaged, and
I thought you were trying to talk about what you name your child. Like, what do you call that? Those little spawns that kind of look like you? Like,
those
yeah.
things.
That's where you were going with it. I was like,
No.
oh.
No, but I had lost all, that footage. Now, granted, I still do have it, and I could probably take it to a repair shop, but the way the guy talked about it is like it's 50-50, and I was like, well, shit. And I'll probably on the negative 50 of that, but I don't know that. I still need to
Yeah.
take it there and try. Anyway, point being, I just wanted to kind of gather up some of my old videos from YouTube, and
Sure.
the problem is that when you do that, they only give you like a tempered version, like a 720 by 480 version of your video,
Oh.
despite if you upload it in HD, which I think is bullshit. But
We're watching it in HD. Why wouldn't you be able to? Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't.
that's
I
weird.
don't understand what they're doing. Anyway,
Mhm.
so I was trying to find a way to get HD versions of my videos back, so I could at
Mhm.
least have that copy on my hard drive, the new hard drive that I have that works. So at least I feel like I have my original video.
Of course.
I still kind of lose all the footage that I filmed, but it's whatever. So as I was doing this, one of the videos that they banned, that I've talked about on the original
yes.
show before, I don't understand how this works. Okay, so there is still in my manage videos section, there's a link. It tells me that it has been removed, but I can still watch it in that box. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
All
if you
right.
click on the link, you take it to another window, and it's like this video has been removed from YouTube, yada yada, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's still there. Okay, within that box, the video is still there.
Okay.
So why can't I retrieve that video?
Ooh.
You know?
Yeah.
But I can't. They won't let me download it. They won't let me. That's my video that you're holding hostage on YouTube.
Wow.
But why can I not access it? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense,
Right.
because if I can still,
saving you from yourself.
yeah,
Like you can't have it back.
I'm sure. But
Yeah,
yet again, like I
wow.
said, I can still watch it in the box.
Yeah.
So if I can watch it, it's still there, is it not?
It is. I would imagine so. Have you tried watching it start to end, audio, everything's
Yeah.
there?
Everything's there.
Then yeah, that's dumb. You should be able to just take that back.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. Because I would even
I bet
take
we
it.
could find some sneaky program that'll.
I've
download it
tried.
off
I
of there,
really
so.
did some digging, and I don't. Unless I was doing something wrong, I don't understand how that works. So if anybody out there who's listening
Yeah.
knows if there's a way to retrieve a banned video, and the first thing that I was told was go to the Wayback Machine, and I was like, what? And they were just like, well, it saves like URLs, but I think it saves URLs if you've saved it prior.
Like you already had to have
Yeah.
saved it there to protect it. Okay.
So I was like, well, this doesn't help me, because I tried and they're like, we don't know what this is. And I was like, okay, thank you. So
Dang. Or have to do stupid old school and just like record the screen grab.
yeah, so
That sucks. You'll lose a lot of quality, but
sure.
I guess you'd have it. I don't know.
But maybe it'll prompt me to go get the other video fixed or whatever, to get the actual footage restored and all that jazz. I just, I want to have my copies. If the internet should ever go down, I still have my copies of my
Sure.
work.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do.
I don't blame you.
Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. I just wanted to kind of talk about that for a moment.
I mean, they gotta have a little bit of our old selves in here,
Yeah, just so everyone's aware, we went off on a tangent pre-recording for like at least 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
Or sorry. I don't know. Whichever camp
Which-
you fall in.
Whichever camp you fall into. We just had some things we needed to talk about, and it was just like, let's just talk about it.
And we might have thought of other content for future stuff, We'll
did.
chat and go, ooh,
Ooh.
Yeah. See, it's the creative process.
And we did.
Right.
We did
Yeah.
do all that.
We did. And then it's hard because we want to keep talking. We're like, well, maybe we should wait.
Yeah.
Like, but-
Maybe we should just let
Yeah.
this.
Like when
Actual
friends are like,
show.
we're not allowed to talk to each other,
Oh, yeah.
so we can keep it fresh.
It's all for content. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we were going to talk about something that did we mention it on the last episode?
I don't know. Maybe not. Because, well, I think it's probably not. And it's probably safe that we don't. Because what if we change our mind the next week?
That's
I want to
true.
record something else. So maybe we'll just always have to keep you all in suspense.
Things can change because
Things can change.
we may have, you don't know when we're recording this for one. Two,
True.
we may have like a bank full of episodes set up, and then maybe we want to play,
Whichever.
whatever you call it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to get a
Like,
word out, and my brain
move it.
can't.
What,
voc-
debuting them in a specific order? all
Yeah,
over
maybe
the
we want to
place, mix
switch
and
it up.
match?
Switch
Yeah.
it up. Maybe
Yeah.
there is something happening this week, and we recorded an episode 3 months ago, and then it was just like, you know what? That would be awesome if we put that episode out now because everyone's talking about that now.
Right. Yeah.
And I could date this episode right now. based on some
whatever
things
you
that
want.
happened yesterday,
You could.
but I don't want
Yeah.
to. So,
It's a complex system we have going
Mm.
on over here.
we're trying to keep you out of the loop now. You used to keep up with us last time because of the news of the week. Now, we're not talking about news of the week like
Nope.
hurricanes and
No.
arrests
Fires.
of
I think,
certain
like,
people and
Oh yeah, there's always someone doing something bad.
yeah, and whatever celebrity death happened this week. We're not talking about any of that stuff because then you'll know when we recorded all this.
It's true. We can't date ourselves. Ooh.
Yeah. So none of that happened this week, or maybe it did. Who
Or
knows?
all of it. Maybe this is the last podcast you'll ever hear from anyone.
Sure.
Something catastrophic could be around the corner.
There is a
look
meteor
around.
heading to Earth. All right. I'm sorry. We had to date ourselves. There's a meteor coming to Earth right now.
Well, I mean, we did talk about the aliens, so
We did.
unfortunately, I guess we have to say this was their ride in,
Yep.
y'all. This is their ride in. We were wrong.
Yep.
They seen them up there surfing the meteor
So
all the way in.
sorry, people. I didn't want to date us, but it's happened.
I mean, go Google it right now. We're telling the truth.
Yep. Anyway, let's talk about something else that, so while we're taking people's minds off the meteor.
That's
You know,
true.
we wanna
I
talk
want you
about,
not to stress.
Let's talk about how TV shows have evolved. I think that's what we were kind of discussing at one point.
Yes.
And
yes.
so now you're the one that kind of had an inkling of this idea. So explain to me what exactly we're going to dig into.
So, well, my initial thought will depend on, I guess, what era we land in. But like you and I, TV shows, a lot different when we were growing up than what they are now, And so I thought it would just be kind of interesting to kind of dive in how we saw that evolution kind of take place. So, I mean, we're not super old. So I'll say 80s is kind of where we start, watching our TV. And then, through the 90s into the 2000s and, I mean, gosh, now, it's just so crazy. So, I mean, depending, I guess, on how many tangents we get on one thing, for sure, I kind of wanted to discuss how the 80s TV would have been so much different, like if it were to debut now.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
how would you even think that would fly? And then maybe we could save the other generations for another one. Or if we get caught up into the conversation and it makes sense, so be it. But it's a good 40 years worth of TV that has evolved that we have been able to pretty much witness that whole time. I mean,
Sure.
not full 40 years we were watching TV, but yeah.
Okay. So I think sticking with the 80s might be beneficial to us if we can. Now, granted, we can bounce a little bit here and there, but if we can kind of stick to that structure, because I know what you're talking about. There's a formula, very formulaic, and even in other previous decades that we didn't grow up in, I'm sure there was still that formulaic aspect to it where it was just like well,
cereals and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. But I also do want to kind of bring up something or a more modern TV show that felt like it was trying to bring that back. And so if I can weave it in, I'm going to do that because the best thing about this now, doing comparisons, is we actually have legit comparisons of so many shows that have been remade.
Oh my gosh. That's
or
another one. Sure.
Sequelized, if you will. So now we're getting
think what year we were in.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so looking at the formulas of the time.
Yeah.
There's a basic structure, okay, to most shows. So say, for example, a drama. You have your basic backstory of a character. And then every week, depending on who that character is, let's say the A-Team, Magnum P.I., Murder, She Wrote. Well, was that?
Dynasty?
Dynasty.
Is that another one that would kind
Dallas.
of do the same thing?
MacGyver. You know what the basic plot is for every episode. Magnum's going to get a case and he's got to solve it before the end, and then bam, boom. And he's going to solve it by the end, or at least most of the time. A-Team, same deal. Someone's going to come to them. They're going to be like, hey, I need your help. Solve, boom, done. it's formulaic.
Mm-hmm.
They'll eventually throw in some wrinkles here and there just to kind of keep it interesting, but most seasons are just that.
Right.
New characters, new, situation every week, but the same characters just kind of move from.
And we still borrow from that a lot today, for sure.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
I mean, pretty much all of your Chicago series kind of follows that. Your Law and Orders, your CSIs, like where it's like that episode made sense. We wrapped up everything that needed to happen in that episode. There might be some overarching storyline that'll flow through the entire season, but for the most part, I watched that episode. I've seen the beginning. I've gotten the finale of it. We'll move on to a new story next week.
Right. And see, and that's what a lot of television doesn't, or they do now a little bit more than they did back then, are the continuing characters that come through. There does seem to be some story arcs for them to grow, to evolve.
Sure. Yeah.
And back then, I mean, you think of like Knight Rider, Michael Knight, he's just doing his thing. Did we ever have any real evolution to that character? Not that I know.
Not that I can recall. No. Yeah. He's just always, the man.
Yeah,
I don't
he
know.
just did his job and came home. And I don't remember there being, you remember when Michael Knight did this? And remember when that happened? Or you remember when Jessica Fletcher went to jail? No, I don't. But maybe it did happen. But was that like a big story arc for the character? Like, that changed everything? No, that was an episode that happened, and they never talked about it again. It didn't affect her. It was just one of those plot things that they used for that story, and it was done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So there was really no evolution to the character in that way.
Not a whole lot. No, it kind of seemed like maybe as the actors grew, you could tell maybe the character got a little bit more comfortable or a little bit more leaning into their quirks that they would have had in the beginning, because I've seen that a lot where it's like the first maybe season or so, everything seems a little bit more chill. And as they find their place, the second season seems to be amping up what you've already been seeing, kind of bringing it to a different entertaining level. Now we're not introducing you, I guess, to the characters and stuff anymore. Now you're settled. So I don't know. I know it's not from the 80s, but Friends really, I recall that. Because like if you watch like the first season and then going to the second one, like Monica was always very OCD, kept everything clean. But by like 2 or 3, it was like almost a caricature of that. So it was still what she did, but to the nth degree, all of them seemed to take that route when Ross became more Ross, Chandler became more Chandler, so it wasn't like a huge evolution. They just fell more comfortable into the character, I guess, and amped it up. I don't know. But we're talking about multicam sitcoms too, which is kind of different from the ones we were just talking about also, which was more prevalent in the 80s.
Well, that's actually where I kind of wanted to go from there, because sitcoms really were based off one small little idea. It was, what's the situation? Here's the situation. Okay. And here's your cast of characters. Go. And there really wasn't a lot more to it than that. And every week it was just, what's this week's situation with this family or this?
What's the lesson we're going to learn by the end of it too? Because there was always like that music would start and it's like, here's where I was supposed to learn the lesson for it. Because it was way more family focused TV, I want to say, in the 80s. Like TGIF, for crying out loud, when you had like Full House and Family Matters and I don't know, I think Step by Step was one of them. I feel like the last two kind of moved around a little bit. I feel like Full House, Family Matters always, and then the other two for the hour might have changed. I feel like it did, and I could be remembering wrong.
There were a lot of sitcoms on ABC at some point. And I can remember some, but there was a fourth one with that TGIF. Yeah,
it was like 4 episodes or 4 shows, right?
Yeah, it was just a big
My
comedy
Two Dads
block.
wasn't on that, was it?
No, that was NBC. See, I want to say
I might have to look it up.
Just the 10 of us, but I don't know if that was it. Because I felt like it was the Perfect Strangers. Was that the other one?
Me? Okay,
because I feel like that was on a different night too. I don't remember that being on Friday.
Perfect Strangers is on there once. Yes. Okay, so Step by Step was Full House, Perfect Strangers. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Was she really that early?
I think she came later. I think once
90s,
her
right?
popularity really kind of locked in, she became that. that
Right.
face of TGIF.
I just didn't know it was TGIF though. Interesting. So Step by Step, yes. Two of a Kind.
I don't
Going
remember that
Places, which I don't even remember.
one. Going Places? Who's in that?
The Huleys. What? You guys are saying things I don't remember at all.
I remember that. I just don't remember watching it.
I'm starting to think this. Okay, yeah, maybe. Just the 10 of Us was on there too. But
Okay, maybe that's the
I'm
one
like, I
thinking
feel
of.
like the lineup was 4 though. I think you guys are screwing with me, throwing in all of these different shows here.
Well, keep in mind some of those shows didn't last very long. So
True.
those were the ones on 8:30 that people would just kind of tune out, and they were just like,
Okay, so starting in 85, you had Webster, Mr. Belvedere, Different Strokes, Benson.
Benson.
So I was too little. I guess I don't remember any of that. And then by 87, we had Full House, Mr. Belvedere, The Pursuit of Happiness, Max Headroom.
Yeah, that tracks. At least Max
Okay.
Headroom. I don't remember The Pursuit of Happiness. That's new to me.
Yeah, like, so maybe I'm just like reading this weird, but so this is where I start to remember Full House, Family Matters, Perfect Strangers, Just the 10 of Us.
Mhm.
That's when I start to remember. Baby dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, yes.
Oh!
Okay, yes, that
Yes.
was part of that.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Oh, that's funny. So that was Family Matters, Step by Step, Dinosaurs. So this is where I'm starting to kind of remember, but that's when we're coming into the 90s now.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right,
Okay.
all right, dinosaurs, gotcha.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
so, lots
stick-
of them.
Sticking to the 80s premise of sitcoms.
Mhm.
Now, I feel like there was always some little element, some quirky element, because also keep that in mind too. This was also around the time where you had the breakout character, you know, the one that everybody's like, oh man, this is going to be the guy. Balky from Perfect Strangers. That was supposed to be that guy. He's like, well, talking with the craziness, and he's got his catchphrases, and
Mhm.
wasn't it just "Don't be ridiculous"? That was all it was.
Something like that. Oh, don't be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can't
of
do it
course
right,
not.
but
Don't
yeah.
be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I know he's not technically meant to be. I mean, he's obviously the star of this show, but Alf, I think that was kind of the
Right, yeah.
whole impetus behind that. Is like, well, just make the breakout character the star, and he's Alf. You know,
Right.
people are gonna love it. And how long can 5 seasons of this? Okay, if I'm not mistaken, you have to play within your rules. He's an alien. No one can see him. But yet you have all this shit coming out. And then what do? One of the biggest tropes that I remember in sitcoms is you always have to go back to the status quo. So there would be that episode where somebody would find out about Alf and it's like, oh my God, they found out. And then by the end, they've gotten amnesia. And it's like, oh, I don't remember anything. Or, oh, it was just,
Yeah.
oh, it's crazy. And it's like, that's
Able
bullshit.
to explain it away. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know.
And I
Keep our
always-
secret for another week.
That was always one of those things that would bug me because that never felt like character growth. It felt like you were just kind of cheating people out of it because now you introduced us to this little wrinkle and it's like, oh, what's this going to be like having this character know about him? And then it's like, nah, we're not going to do that. It's like, but that could have made things interesting. You know,
could've,
you're adding, a little bit of extra drama or something, or maybe
But
not.
I think they always had to end on a high note.
Yeah.
Like it always, had to come full circle. Like even when they tried to do heavier episodes, like I can remember Full House trying to do like a drugs episode or whatever with, was it DJ?
Yeah, taking
You know?
diet pills or something.
Yeah, like caffeine pills or something. And
And do you remember the
you watch
advertisements?
it now, it's awkward, but then it was like, then the music would play and Danny would sit down with her, and they'd have this little heart-to-heart moment where we learned our lesson. And, it's just, that's the formula I kind of remember from the family TV sitcoms or whatever. There was always a moral to the story somewhere.
Sure. Do you remember the advertisements they would have? It would just be something like, this week on Family Matters, Urkel, breaks a vase or whatever. And then they go, and then on a very special Full House, DJ takes some caffeine pills. And it's just like, wait, what? You just transition? Or they could do it, backwards. It could just be like, this week on Full House, DJ is, taking drugs. But then on Family Matters, Urkel's driving a car.
Can I do that? all right. Yep.
Just some odd juxtapositions, it just doesn't work, but they
Well, I
tried.
think when you're having like the multicam theater basically experience, because you got the live audience and everything there, I mean, like, how serious can you take the tone? As much as you try, you still got an audience going, ooh, or, in the background. Some of it's canned, of course, if they didn't get the laugh that they needed in the recording.
The
can
wolf
it over.
whistle and woo,
Oh, yeah.
woo.
Yeah. There's always
Every time
somebody
there was
who
a
lost their
kiss.
mind in the audience.
Mhm.
This was the best day of their lives. So yeah, that's always what I seem to remember. That was the formula. We had to learn something in the tomfoolery. And the fact that when you learned later on, like, Danny was supposed to be the one, like,
Sure.
leading them all to the right place, it's like, well, all right,
But yeah,
Anywho.
everything had structure to a formula. You never broke the formula. And with the rare exception where they would try to break the formula, but honestly, I can't think of any of those archetypes that really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Because even, all right, use not Family Matters, Full House. And I guess we could use Family Matters to a point, but I mean
They were both on a long time.
that was a show that was not meant to focus on Urkel.
It wasn't. No, he wasn't even in the first couple episodes. Am I right? Or like first half of the.
Yeah, like he was a side character that just came in for one episode, and then his popularity just went boom, and they were like, "Hey, put that kid in more episodes," and then it became his show, pretty much. As sad as that is,
it caused a lot of ruffles too.
Oh, yeah.
If you read some which I mean, fair,
Oh, that's absolutely fair because that, and I don't feel like that's his fault.
No,
Jaleel
I mean, you don't
White.
know what's gonna hit.
If
know.
if anyone blamed him for that, that's unfair. That's a
I'm sure it's
studio
just
call.
jealousy would cause them to blame him.
Well, I think, and don't quote me on this, but I feel like I've heard this, is the actress who played Harriet, the original
Yes.
actress who played Harriet, left the show because she was hoping maybe they would give her some more things to do, and she was always advocating to get more storylines or to do anything. And, they were just like, but he's the star. And she's like, well, fuck you.
Right?
And
Yeah.
spelled out. And so
I think there was ruffles between those two. I think you're right, which is
Yeah.
why the original actress left, fired, whatever happened.
but
there.
again, that's not his fault. He can't help
No.
what the studio is pushing for because they're saying keep the Urkel kid because he was everywhere.
And he was a kid too.
Yeah.
What, like early teens, so what do they know at that age, and being in such an extent, like, my God, to have fame at that age and life is just not normal. And yeah. Yeah.
Here's another great trope thing that happened because I won't say it happened all the time, but this did happen in old television in a way that I don't think we see nowadays. Because I feel like if it was going to happen, they would find a way to address it.
Okay.
Versus back then, if there was a character that was no longer necessary, they just disappeared.
It's true. They're
Okay.
just not there anymore.
Now, I'm going to use Family Matters, for example. Remember, there was a little sister at one point who just vanished.
Oh, yeah.
Judy, I think was her
I
name.
think you're right.
She
Man,
just-
I had forgotten about that. Just forgotten daughter. We don't talk about her anymore.
Yep, she was there for a few seasons, and then it was like, oh, what happened to the other sisters? Like, who knows? They never addressed
we only
it.
had 2 kids. What do you mean 3? Or
Yeah.
however many it was. 4,
They
3.
they never touched on it. They never explained it. She just disappeared. Happy days. Richie Cunningham had an older brother. He went upstairs and never came back.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's funny. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Yeah. If you were of no use, we just got rid of it. There was no death scene. There was no goodbye. There was just like, you're done.
Yeah,
Like,
they just
maybe you moved. Maybe you're just supposed to assume it. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
swept under the rug, whatever it may be. But that was a common thing back then. Is if there was a character that just wasn't working, you never talked about it. You just made it go away. like it never happened. And I don't feel like we would ever do that today because, again, we have so many people who are just like, what happened to this actor? What happened to that actor? What happened to this character? And they just...
Or they will kill him off or give him some sort of ending, you know?
But at least I'll give them credit for that with today's television because I've heard on certain shows that I've watched where these staff writers, and I consider this to be bold because you're taking someone's job away. If you write the character to die...
Yeah.
You're pretty much saying, hey, this is where we want to go narratively, nothing personal, but we're going to kill your characters. Like, this is their job. They didn't ask to leave, and you're pretty much kicking them off. That's like The Walking Dead. I know how many times that's happened. They would come to them and be like, hey.
This is your last day. Thank you for your service.
You're going to die. And it's like, well, shit.
I think on that, though, if you didn't think you were up for it, you were being naive.
Right.
Or you should have read the books maybe as your guide for preparation for the show. Because, yes, I know that's a perfect example, though, of like no one knowing when theirs is because they deviated enough from the books that even I didn't know. Because, yeah, we wouldn't have had what's his name for 2 seasons. He would have been killed off right away. The guy that was sleeping with his wife.
Oh, yeah.
Shane?
Shane.
Yeah. He was like killed instantly in the books. Like,
Sixth issue. It's like done.
And then, but now he became like a bigger character in the show. I mean, by what was it, season 2? I guess
season 2, into season 2, or.
But regardless, the point stands that they didn't know. You're right. One day you come in for the last day of the season, and you don't know if that's your last day on set.
Yeah,
which is nerve wracking. Unless you're Rick, I guess you kind of know you would make it for a while.
Right.
Anyway.
Now. I do want to preface this by also saying that I don't think that this is necessarily a bad formula for television, like what they're doing. Okay. Now I've rewatched, and maybe you have some examples too. Night Court. That's a show that the old series. You know, I'd been wanting to see it. I couldn't find it on anywhere. Of course, now. After you buy it, you find it every fucking where.
Yeah.
But I wanted to rewatch the show because I was like, man, I haven't seen this show in forever and I can't find it anywhere. Saw it on Vudu, very cheap, the whole series. And I thought, I'm going to do it. And I rewatched it. And I was just like, there's just something, nice about it.
Yeah. And, to me, I don't know. Some of the humor felt a little bit more geared for the adults.
Yeah.
And I would totally gone over my head as a kid. Totally, which is fine. I think a lot of writers probably do that with shows like that, knowing parents are going to have to watch it with them or something. Like, here's some stuff for you too, so you're entertained.
Yeah.
But I think going back and watching it through older eyes, I almost appreciated a lot of the jokes and stuff more. And some of the topics that they would actually discuss shocked me, must have blew right past me as a kid, because you wouldn't think in the 80s they would have been addressing things like that. To be fair, maybe they were talking about it more than my little kid brain knew, because I was still outside playing and doing all that kind of stuff, not like connected into news, because we were getting world news and stuff like that at that point. It was starting to become a thing. Cable, I think, was really starting to become a thing,
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, not realizing that they were actually touching on these subjects sometimes, but it makes sense when you actually put context behind it. It's like, well, yeah, they should have been, because take a look at what was actually going on. We were just too little. We didn't realize.
Right.
We didn't know the world around us at that time. We were just children. So seeing that in context, absolutely. And even to your point about how the humor can sometimes be more adult, I almost feel like, depending on the show, it's almost like you did have the adults writing, and then for others you didn't. You had these people who were just like, you got to dumb it down. And then those would be the ones who was like, God, this is so fucking lame.
Yeah.
But they were just trying to, like, look what
you
we're
felt
doing.
bad watching it for them. You're like, this is awkward, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't understand how this lasted for 5 seasons, but,
I think humans have changed, though, too, quite a bit in like what we accept as entertainment. I mean, we're talking 30 years of learning about other people, more world news, more things have happened, less patience for things, than there was then. Yeah, that'll change it a lot too, because you have to kind of accommodate to our freaking baby brains now that we can't handle things that go on for too long, and I'm one of those.
Yeah.
You got to kind of bring it down a little bit maybe to catch us, but I mean, smart humor though is smart humor. If it's good writing, you'll still get me pretty good.
Yeah. Now I think, and if you can come up with any others, please feel free to chime in. I was trying to think of some of those topics that would almost be, they felt like they were taboo. Like, oh, we can't talk about those things. And then when you see a show actually do it, you're like, oh, they're actually talking about this? What else?
Yeah, and especially in that kind of setup, though, too. So think of like the multicam sitcom. Night Court, actually, I have the trans episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one, like rewatching it, I don't remember seeing it when I was younger, but looking at it now, it was interesting that they actually had like a one-off episode addressing something like that and was not rude about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's his name? Of course, like they did kind of make the whole episode about how it was affecting him because his friend, so it wasn't really, focused on, his friend coming out as a trans woman, mostly focusing on how it affected him. Oh, my childhood friend is gone in this. But I don't recall them ever being hateful towards her or saying anything untoward. It was just, this happened. My friend is not the same person that I went to school with or college or wherever she came from. But it was interesting to me that was getting addressed then and not being the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
Because usually if you saw like LGBT people 80s and 90s, it happened to be the butt of the joke, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of refreshing to know someone was taking it a little bit more seriously at that time. Kind of made you wonder who on set probably had that friend.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't remember it being a huge talking point in news or anything yet. But again, I was a kid, so keep that in mind. But it seemed like that's really only been a huge topic of conversation over the last 10, 15 years where we finally taken that more seriously and having that conversation as well.
Sure.
So, but yeah.
I know one topic that always came up, and I remember this being such a ridiculous, and I feel like this came out kind of in the same era. I feel like this is an 80s, 90s show. Mm-hmm. AIDS was a big, HIV and all that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is when the 80s, all this popped. Mm-hmm. So addressing it on a show almost felt taboo. So when someone would do it, it's like, oh.
Right.
And the show Life Goes On. I don't know if you remember that one or not.
Yes, Corky. Yeah. Yes.
They had an episode, and I just, looking back on it now, it just seems so quaint that this is where our brains were at. And it was the daughter, who's Kelly Martin was the actress. I don't remember her character. I don't remember a lot about the show, just bits and pieces, actors mainly. And she was dating a guy who was HIV positive, I think.
Okay. So just HIV though.
Yeah. Or he may have had AIDS. I don't remember. It was
either way.
I know they're different. Don't at me. Or whatever.
Right.
Just I don't remember what it was. I just remember he was afflicted with one or the other.
Okay. Yep.
And there was this big deal. It was like, oh, she's dating someone with AIDS. Ugh.
Oh,
and
unclean.
you got that sensibility around the world. And then there was an episode where they kissed, and I just remember people freaking out, going, "She's kissing someone with AIDS!" And you're just
how
looking
ignorant
back.
We were, though.
I know.
Like that's what we thought. Like even touching them, we were gonna, die, and it was really, it's really awful. But
when you think about what they were doing, applause.
Trying to go, hey guys.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right. Like.
And
yeah.
I just remember that reaction. Now, granted, it has been a long time since that, but I just have that visceral reaction to that moment that I remember was around me. As it was like, you have to see what's going to happen. This is happening. There was an advertisement letting you know this could happen on television to lure you in, and everybody was around their television to wait and see if they were going to kiss. you know.
That's another good point, though.
Mhm.
Back then, you had to come home. Everyone was experiencing it at the same time.
Yes.
That's a big thing because, like, there was no, did you catch it yet? It was like, if you did or you didn't. And then you had to wait till Syndicate to see it again, unless you were fancy and had a VCR,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, towards the later end of it, you know. But that is one thing. And I know we've discussed this on other podcasts as well, that I do miss that, honestly.
Sure.
That weekly event that y'all kind of had to come to together. And then, you know, your water cooler talk the next day, you know, like
Yeah.
that. Did you watch it last night? And you all were on the same page. There was no like, I got ahead of you in episodes because I'm binging the whole thing and it gets spoiled for you online because you accidentally wandered into the wrong area, you know.
Mhm.
That was great. And I miss it. Probably didn't know I would, but I really do. But,
I mean, I
yeah.
think that's a great thing to kind of bring up too while we're talking about this, because I know that at one point when I used to read, I used to try to be, you know, sophisticated and keep up with everything with Entertainment Weekly.
Ooh-hoo.
You know,
yeah.
Not
I had
that
the
Vanity
Reader's
Fair
Digest,
crap.
yeah.
Anyway, they had a section where they would let you know what the top rated TV shows were. And today, if a show can get at least 1 to 2 million views,
Uh-huh.
that's considered pretty good for television. For
Right.
television, ER. This is the one I can remember the most. ER was one of the most popular shows in the 90s.
It's still on.
No.
I think it's still on. I feel like it'll never go away.
15 to 20 million viewers a week.
A week.
A week.
Yep.
And other shows would also do that. I mean, there are so many shows that would have these numbers that were just, it's astronomical when you think about it compared to the things people watch today. No,
Well,
we
we've got
don't.
so much.
Yeah, we don't. There's not that collective anymore. It's a collective in the sense of Squid Game. Let's use Squid Game for example, because
Okay.
that was just some big phenomenon that came out of nowhere.
Right.
So
Yeah.
here's this show that dropped on Netflix, and it just quietly gained a base.
Mm-hmm.
If that had come to television on its own, I don't think it would have. It would have just been there and forgotten, and people were like, "Hey, did you kind of see that thing?" And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
but no, nobody saw it. But today, someone watches it, and then they tell somebody, and then they tell somebody, and then it grows because it's there on streaming.
Yeah, it's easily accessible anytime you want to go watch it. Yeah.
But back then, you had appointment television.
Yeah, you did.
That's why things died on Fridays. If your show got pushed to Friday,
You couldn't go up against TGIF, yo.
Yeah.
Like, that just wasn't going to happen. You knew better. Yeah. Even same thing, like, when we got into the 90s, Friends time slot, you were like, oh, F you. Like, just tell us we're canceled then.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why are you even entertaining this idea?
But good point. You know, TGIF. Think about that. So, like I said, there was this stigma if your show was put into a Friday time slot or even Saturday, you know.
I feel like Saturday too, yeah.
But Friday, you know, no one's going to be home except for families. So you have this family comedy block. This is for the families who are going to stay home and they're going to, you know, they don't get to go out. That's why that worked. And then for everybody else who's just wild and crazy, they go out and they party and they're not home for television. They don't care.
Right.
So they knew what they were doing. And even in some other segments, like you said, there were some that you just don't go up against. Cosby Show and Family Ties. There was like that big block. You didn't touch it.
Nope.
And then The Simpsons came in and they were just like, hey, get out of here. And there were so many shows that got stuck between the two giants that it was just like, what are you doing? You can't compete with that.
No one's ever going to see your first episode.
Yeah. So I
But
know
if
that
you have no slots left, I guess what do you do? If you're a network, you still got to put something on at that time. You can't just give up and go dark for 2 hours, I guess.
Right.
You know, like you did back in like the 50s, because there was like 2 things that came on and that was it. You come back for TV tomorrow at 7 p.m. because there's no more TV.
and I even remember some networks actually trying, because that would have been Cosby Show would have been NBC. And then Fox had The Simpsons. So you had ABC and CBS trying to figure out what to do in between, because anything they put up against them had to be better, which Let's be
How do
honest.
you do that even?
Yeah, you're talking. I mean, the fact that they even put The Simpsons up against The Cosby Show, that was confidence, saying we can top that. No worries, and it worked. You know,
Yeah.
they saw the writing on the wall. They were like, no, we got this. We can
It
take
is
care
two
of
different
that.
audiences, I would think.
Sure,
For sure.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like a family show as opposed to what The Simpsons is still to this day.
But how do you compete with that? And there were, like, I remember CBS had taken a show they were going to stick at 7:00 between them. And they're like, well, we have more faith in this show, so let's move it to 7:30 and we'll just stick some garbage right here.
Sure, filler.
Yeah. And hopefully they'll come around 7:30. But there's that draw. I'm sure you remember this as well. Sometimes that was kind of the lead-in show for another thing.
Yeah.
And once you're kind of there, that was kind of the appeal. You're just like, well, I'm here. Do I want to watch this? And it would just depend. Sometimes you just kind of get lured in because they're advertising beforehand and be like, okay.
Or you came back from the bathroom and it started and you're like, well, what's this?
Yeah. And then you just give it a watch and the next thing you know, you're watching it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know that there were some shows that I didn't necessarily do that with. There were just, when it started, it was like, nah, I'm out.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
But on occasion, you'd kind of give something to watch and be like, okay, I'm interested.
I see you.
Yeah.
Got it.
Let's see what's happening here. You know.
But yeah, you don't go up against those big guys because you had never even heard of it. Nobody's eyes are even going to there because this is what I do this time of night on this day of the week.
Yeah.
We did. We'd order Domino's pizza, watch TGIF. I remember that.
And I do want people to keep that in mind too. Appointment television, something that doesn't exist.
Right.
It seems ridiculous, but there was something comforting about it, I guess, in some ways.
Something we'll never think of having. I think you just had to have been through it and see what it's like now to have appreciated it. Because at the time, it's just what it was.
Sure.
You know? But yeah, I look back on it and it was just something about 15, 20 million people, are sitting down at that exact same time doing the exact same thing that you are doing. Like a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was this is when it happened. And again, if you were fancy enough to have a VCR, then sure, I don't know. When could you even start programming them to go off at the right time? Like, I don't even remember when that came in for VCRs where you could actually set it for like 8 p.m. I don't even know if you could do day of the week. You could set it up like earlier that day to go off at like 8 p.m. or something. I'm trying to remember. I was supposed to be the one to record all the stuff for my family and take out the commercials. So I had to sit there painfully and like stop it and start it when the commercial came back on. That's how we watched The Stand.
We did. Oh, yeah. We had that on.
That was like a 12-night event.
Yeah, I remember being the VCR boy too, and sometimes it would just be, I don't even know if it was anything my parents wanted to record. It was just something I wanted to record because it was like, I want this. And, sometimes I was like, I'm not going to mess up anything that you're doing. Just let me put the tape in, hit record, and then you can watch whatever. And that was a cool thing about that too. I liked it where you had I don't even remember what the button is. That's how little I remember about VCRs anymore. But you could start recording the thing. You'd hit a button, and then you could just change your channel so you didn't have to watch what you were recording.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that came in a little bit later, too. Yeah, that was fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when, like, cable started. We started to get, when it became more prevalent in the home. Because I want to say 80s was when cable really started to take off.
It was, it was locking in.
Correct. Yeah, where you started to have more than just the 4 or 5 channels or whatever you could get on antenna, rabbit ears, and then, hey, now we have 50 channels.
Yeah.
And then now it's, Jesus Christ, but.
and you know what? I'm glad you kind of brought that up too, because keep that in mind too. the options we have.
Yeah,
whether
there wasn't like
it's
a lot, yeah.
through cable or streaming. I grew up with the 3-channel system. 4 if you're counting PBS. So it was just like I had
Channel
ABC,
3 was for video games.
and that's true. That's true.
Yes, kids. We had a channel that we had to go to.
Yeah, it had to be. I mean, you could do Channel 4, but Channel 3 just seemed like, well, I watch
I feel
things
like
on
that's what
Channel
nothing
4.
was hooked up to. Yeah.
Yeah, Channel 3 is nothing, so we'll do that. But you had ABC on Channel 2. Channel 3 was, for video games.
Whatever.
Channel 4 was NBC. Channel 5 was CBS. Channel 8 was PBS.
See,
And
mine was Channel 9 was PBS.
yeah, and wherever you're at, everything
could
that I
change.
said,
Sure.
could
Yeah.
be foreign to you.
Your
I get
digits
it.
might be different.
Then there was the possibility, and it was so weird too, the antennas. Where you were
Yeah.
changed everything.
Downstairs got one show, upstairs got another.
Yes, exactly. So on occasion, all right. So we kind of sat where my parents still live to this day. It's kind of in a hollow. So there's a hill up here where my grandparents lived, and then right down below is where my parents' house was. Okay, so we could, if we were lucky, we might get Fox.
Yeah.
Sometimes Channel 22, which was another public access channel, would come in, and that was actually more possible than Fox, which was our Channel 17. There was a Channel 30, which I can't remember what that was. That was like, I guess the UPN equivalent, but it wasn't
I was
UPN
gonna
at
say,
the
was
time.
it Home Shopping or
Yeah,
something?
I don't remember what it was, but it would come in on occasion. Fox was the one we never seemed to actually get. All the other channels would kind of
No
come in.
amount of aluminum foil would help you out, eh?
Nope. But you go up to my grandparents' house, same setup. And what do they get? They get all the channels because they're sitting on the hill. They're clearing the
Nothing in
valley
the
and
way.
everything like that. And I was just like, my God. So we would go up there
Hell
to
yeah, you did.
occasionally watch the shows that we couldn't. Saturday mornings.
morning.
Yeah, Saturday mornings. That's where it became necessary because 2, 4, and 5 for us as a kid, they did the cartoon blocks Saturday mornings. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
there was plenty to watch. But then when Fox got into the game, well, they were saying Batman, X-Men, all these
Ninja
Super Mario
Turtles.
Brothers, and all these things that I love, and I couldn't watch it at home. So I was like, well, shit. I'll go up to my grandparents and be like, hey, guys, what's going on? And I'll just turn the TV on. Just,
You won't hear a peep out of me.
Nope. I'll
Sit
just,
in front of the TV.
and sometimes I don't guess they cared, but,
Yeah.
who knows? I don't know.
Who
But
knows? Yeah.
point being, we didn't have access to this stuff. So there were a lot of things that we didn't get to see, or if you missed an episode, like you said, you're
missed it.
screwed.
Yeah.
And you had to wait till summer for the possibility of a rerun. And even that's a gamble because
May not get through the whole season.
Yeah.
Or may not play the whole thing. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. They might have put something else in their summer slot too,
And even think
Show
about
or
that too.
something. I don't know.
So
Soap opera.
So, for example, say you watched you caught maybe most of a season of a cartoon. Okay, so say you watched 20 out of 25 episodes and you missed 5. Trying to catch them at rerun, like I said, is a gamble because are you going to want to watch the others again? Or are you just going to be like, well, you're going to forget about it because you're waiting for that one, but then you don't want to keep coming back and then being disappointed. So you're just like, screw it. I'll whatever.
And then by week 4, you stopped looking, which is when your new one would have come up.
And they never put them in order, like you said. They never go in order in which they aired them originally,
Right.
so you can't keep track. You don't know where it was.
Well, see, that's why you had to buy the TV guide.
Yeah,
Then
TV
you could
guides.
read each week on what was coming up and a synopsis of the episode. It would tell you if it was a rerun or not. And then, just had to be diligent, I guess, each week reading that thing.
Is that still a thing?
I wonder if people, because I don't even know, do people even use the cable one, like the channel that you would go to and it would show you what was playing, rolling up the screen, with the times and all that stuff? Like, I know it still exists because going to my in-laws, they still have regular cable. So I have come across that channel. I was like, oh, interesting. The difference is now you can click on it right from there and it'll take you to the channel. But yeah, I wonder if people even bother with that, or would you even publish it? Would people even sub? Like, because we don't have appointment TV, like you said, really anymore. So there would be no need. You would just read the synopsis on the thumbnail and decide whether you want to hit play or not.
And you wouldn't use it for anything like streaming.
I mean,
so what?
And you can get crossword puzzles elsewhere.
Sure. I mean, it still seems to be a thing.
Is it? Interesting.
Yeah,
They can't
I
be
just-
doing well. Unless I am just totally off. Maybe other countries really use it. I don't know.
Okay, so from the looks of things, it seems like they are not publishing as regularly because it used to be a weekly magazine.
Yeah.
You know, you
I can't
get it in the
remember
mail.
when you got it like Friday or something. Tell you what was coming up for the week. Yeah.
You get it in the mail. There were all the cheers and jeers. You remember that?
Oh, yes.
You know,
Yes.
cheers to this thing, jeers to that
Uh-huh.
thing. It was this is a thing we love. This is a
Like
thing we
thumbs
don't.
up, thumbs down. You know,
Yeah.
Siskel and Ebert give it. You know, just think of the TV Guide version.
If you've ever seen, they did a Simpsons reference at one time, and I feel like that's a joke that is going to go over so many heads today if you heard it. But back then, it was very on point and
Very
timely.
relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems like they publish June 12th to July 3rd. That doesn't even feel like a full month.
For what channels? Now I'm curious. Is it still like NBC, ABC? People have to tell me. Do they still even watch it like regular on the TV?
Well, I'm assuming it has to be cable in general because this cover here is for a show on FX. I don't even know what show Outlander comes on.
That feels like an FX channel kind of show.
Yeah, and then
But yeah, see, I don't even know what comes on where anymore either.
NCIS. I mean, that's what CBS.
Sure.
Wow, I didn't even realize some of the people that were in that. I'm just looking at the cover. You got Chris O'Donnell, LL Cool J. Then you've got
Chris O'Donnell.
Chris O'Donnell. NCIS Los Angeles. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I'm
Well, there is a bunch of them, yeah.
yeah, and then you've got Linda Hunt, who looks like Edna Mode from in The Incredibles,
Holy
which
crap.
cannot be a fucking coincidence. You got the dude that played Jim Carrey's character from Dumb and Dumber,
So wait, is this like their ripoff of like Law and Order?
I guess.
This kind of feels like your you know, B cast.
Mhm.
You know, instead of what's his name, you got LL Cool J, you know, Ice-T, I think. Is
Oh,
it
yeah,
Ice Cube?
Ice-T.
Which, see, I'm a jerk. I always get those two mixed up also. Ice-T, yeah. You know.
Now
he's
you
the
can
one
put
that's-
Ice Cube into Ice Tea, and what have you got? A nice drink.
And I
Anyway.
hope they did that.
I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done that.
No.
Anyway, yeah, Appointment TV Guide was very important to that in trying to
Oh,
keep
yeah.
up with
That's
all
where
that.
you got your 3D glasses for Home Improvement, yo.
Oh yeah, did they? Wow, I
I
didn't even remember
that block of
episode.
TV. I remember that like it was 3D, and I want to say this was in the 90s though, probably like early 90s. There was a whole block of like that Friday night TV or something that was all going to do 3D. So when you got your TV Guide, it had those blue and red paper 3D glasses that you wore. And I remember with Home Improvement it was perfect, of course, because he was always blowing things up anyway and was moving the boards around a lot so it would look like it was coming out of the TV. It was fun, you know.
I remember there was I'm glad you kind of brought that up because I remember another 3D event, and the only reason I know about this is because my dad is a huge John Wayne fan, and one night on CBS they did the movie Hondo in 3D.
All right.
And it was just like for my brain, I had never had access to a 3D thing before. Like I'd seen the 3D movies at the video store and whatnot. That's an entirely other conversation. The video store,
Right. Oh, geez. Oh, man. Noted.
But they were just like, "Hey, yes, we're going to show Hondo in 3D," and it was like, "Get your glasses ready," and all this stuff. And it was like, "But why?" But I'm intrigued. But why this
though?
movie in 3D? And it's such
Why
a
not?
and in the 80s or at least late 80s.
Was it an explodey one? Like, I don't know that I've seen this movie, so I don't really know what it's about.
I could not tell you a thing about Hondo.
Because some I always thought was weird. I know, bringing it more current. What was that, My Bloody Valentine, that came out like 10 years or so ago? Like, I have no idea to this day why that was 3D. There was nothing 3D to do. It was just people walking and doing things, and every once in a while he'd swing the axe at you or something, but that was like it. I was like, they didn't do enough to make the 3D make a point.
But do you remember that was when, I think that was like, what, post-Avatar? And then it was like, 3D is back, baby. We got to do, everything's got to be in 3D now.
That's true. You might be right. And I think it was right as we were starting to get like the sunglass types that we're getting now. Because we still had to use the paper ones, which was obnoxious. If you wore glasses, you were just having a bad time.
Sure.
But those big ones they got now fits over quite nicely, actually. And so it's fine. But, yeah.
I don't know.
But you're right. There was a moment there where it seemed like everything had to be 3D. Journey to the Center of the Earth, make it 3D. You're right.
But I mean, that's no different than what they did in the 80s, because that resurged in the 80s. That was another point in time, because I know that they had tried 3D decades ago, and I guess it just, technology wasn't quite there. It was, and they were
not as
playing around with
accessible
it.
to everyone.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the 80s came around, and I can't even tell you what movie kicked it off, but there had to be that one movie that kind of reignited that spark. Because if you take a look, and most of these I can remember, they're only horror movies, but still, there was that element. Amityville 3D, Jaws 3D, Friday the 13th 3D. There were so many of these that were just, it was there. And it was just like, hey, let's do, Freddy's Dead. They did it in 3D.
God.
That was probably one of the last hurrahs of 3D in theaters.
Probably.
And
like, you still see it come every once in a while, but nowhere near, like,
no.
yeah, what it was.
And like you said, even with the Avatar thing, it's almost like it took off again. There was a boom, and then everything had to be in 3D. And then
that's what I'm looking at here. It seems like the rebirth says like 85 to 2003. So I guess we had some, and like that, but I was trying to read like what they were saying in 85 was 3D, because I don't really remember doing all of that then. Starting with We Are Born of Stars in 85. A key point was that this production, as with all subsequent IMAX productions, emphasized mathematical correctness of the 3D rendition and thus largely eliminated the eye fatigue and pain and blah, blah, blah. I've not known this movie.
I have never heard of that before. We Are Born
Stars. Roman Kreuter?
That sounds like one of those IMAX theater things that they just, you go to the IMAX for. It's like, this is an IMAX production. We're going to take you
under the sea. Because then you got Disney going on. Yeah.
Whatever
Captain EO, Francis Ford Coppola in 86, starring Michael Jackson. See, now I'm going to have to go do my own little dive here and check out some of these movies and see what was going on.
That actually sounds familiar. I don't know why.
But yeah, once we got to the end of the 90s and then into the early 2000s, we have like a bunch of them. Interesting. All right. Yeah, I didn't know that.
So I do want to talk about, I mean, since we've discussed a lot of the evolution of it all, and I think I wanted to talk about how I don't think it's not a bad idea, and it can work. And the only reason I'm kind of bringing it up, and I don't want to go too deep into this because I kind of want to talk about this show in another episode in greater detail.
Okay.
But I found it fascinating. Especially, I'm so glad that I started watching it because it's helping this argument.
Okay.
Show on Peacock called Poker Face.
Yes.
Is very much these type of shows, but done in a different way.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I found it to be very interesting because even the way they kind of present it at the beginning has an old school feel to it because they pop the title up and then you see the copyright down at the bottom. That's a very 70s type trope.
Absolutely.
But every episode feels like these type of shows where it's a situation the character is put in. There's a murder and she susses it out.
Yeah.
However, their approach to it is very modern because I also like how they structure the episodes. It's almost like, let's focus over here first, then we'll bring in that character. And now maybe there are other shows that have done that from those times, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But structurally, the way it kind of works is very much like Quantum Leap or The Incredible Hulk or even Columbo.
Here was your situation
for example.
of this week. But they still have a nice overarching story.
Yes.
That's going with that, Sure.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. Each episode, there's a start, a beginning, fixes it or finds out or whatever. And then,
Right. And like you did mention that there is kind of an overarching story.
Mm-hmm.
It plays in here and there, like they'll put it in. It never feels like, so far, at least from what I've seen, it never feels like they just shoehorn it in to be like, well, don't forget she's being chased or whatever.
Right.
But I appreciate how they're doing the storytelling, because it does feel nostalgic to a different time, but there is kind of a modern sensibility to it on how they're telling it, and it works.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of taken aback by that. I was like, this feels like one of those week-to-week episode, crime of the week things, but it's working for me. And it almost kind of made me want to go back to some of these older shows and just maybe I don't think about them in that way. Maybe there's something that I missed that
now with older eyes, get to appreciate it better, maybe.
perhaps, I don't know. I mean, even kind of rewatching some older shows not that long ago, again, there is the formula is there, and it can be a little rote sometimes where you're just like, well, okay, we've done this. You're gonna insult that character, you're gonna say this, you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
You see how it plays out. I'm not gonna say that every show does it well, but there are a lot of shows that the reason they withstand the test of time is because they did something groundbreaking. They were trying something new. They took chances, even within the structured formula.
Right.
And I feel like that's why some of them just don't work, because you tried to follow that formula and you went in the worst possible director. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you just, you didn't have a unique enough hook or storyline. Like if it felt like I've seen this already, there always seems to be that one person who can really innovate and bring it forward. Then everyone wants to just copy it to the T until you finally have that next person willing to maybe use that and then put a unique spin on it or something.
Right.
Scream's a good example of that. When that came out, how many copycat movies of Guess Who the Killer Was came out? Like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I feel like there was another one too, and that same like teenagers trying to guess who was the killer that also got sequels, So it's just like, look, it's working. People are spending money on it. Let's go recreate it, It's just like, guys, it's because it was a unique idea.
Yeah.
Now it's not unique if you all are just going to keep using that same exact formula, just make it this guy's got a hook though instead of a knife. He's wearing, it's just like.
But that's Hollywood to a T. It's like, look what's working. Well, we all got to copy that now. I mean,
and I feel like there was less of that then, maybe. I don't know. Like, I can't really think of like two shows that were exactly alike.
Yeah.
I mean, it's set up maybe, but as far as.
Yeah, that's a good point because, all right, so I'm going to kind of bounce back to Alf for a second. I can't, surely to God, there was another show that tried to be like, well, we could do puppets too. But I can't
outside
think
of dinosaurs,
of anything.
but that was like all puppets though. Like there wasn't the human element in that one at all. And those might have been more robots too, if I remember. I don't remember how Henson did it now, if I'm honest.
Oh, you mean, yeah.
With yeah.
But I can't think of any other show. Well, no. There's an inkling of something, of a stupid show. I say stupid. It may have been gold that I just don't remember. But it's almost like they were trying to do sitcoms with aliens, and it was like, well, he's
30
an alien.
Rock or 30 something from the sun. What was it? Why am I Third Rock?
Third Rock from the Sun. No, I feel like this was. I'm surprised that they didn't try to pull that, but I mean that was like way past Alf. But if we,
that's fair.
Like within the era of Alf, I feel like there was another.
Yeah, I feel like I can even see the character.
Yeah, like there's an alien sitcom of some sort, and they look human, but technically they're an alien, and be like, I don't tell anybody, and they act so robotic or so weird.
Alf is what comes up when I'm trying to look it up. I'm like, come on, tell me 80 shows with puppets.
No, what do you call it? No, not a sponsor, but Alf is coming to DVD. The entire season via Shout Factory. So if you've been wanting the collection of Alf, it's coming out. And I also feel like the movie is coming out too. Operation Alf. Did you ever watch Operation Alf?
I do not think I did.
This is a movie that was supposed to explain everything that happened after he, spoilers, was captured at the end of the show.
Oh,
And then this
yeah.
is supposed to be like a follow-up.
Oh, like how is he doing? Is he okay?
Yeah.
Got
Like,
it.
what
yeah.
what happened? What happened now?
Where'd you
What
go?
happened?
None of these are looking that familiar to me that I'm looking through. Like that would have rung a bell for me. Maybe. I don't know. They're obviously the Muppet Show.
Okay,
Some-
so here's another trope, and
Emu's all live pink windmill show, though. I might have to go check out for an episode just from that title alone and looking at the guy with the emo on his hand.
the what
Yeah.
now?
Emu's all live pink windmill show.
Okay.
Apparently, appearing in shows as Emo's World. Emo was one of our Emu, I guess, was one of our very favorite 80s puppets, especially when he attacked his handler, Rod Hull, an extremely talented comedian and entertainer who was rarely seen without his naughty pet bird. This doesn't sound familiar to me at all. I
all
wonder
right,
if this
hang
is an
on.
American thing, like now that I'm looking at it. Like
Emu
Maybe.
80s puppet. All right, yeah,
Yeah.
I've got I'm curious as hell because
looking
this-
at them, they could be British.
this feels like it should ring a bell, and it does not.
Right? Like I'm looking at it, I'm like, how would I have not seen this in Syndicate even
Well,
at least?
Yeah, British TV, I don't think was that big over here in the 80s.
No. But
So-
Stingray though, that kind of made me smile when I saw that again. The Thunderbirds.
Stingray,
The-
Stingray.
yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
Anyway,
dun.
I don't think that's what we were looking for.
No.
So anywho.
But no, there was another trope that we haven't touched on that I want to talk about.
Okay.
See if you remember this one. In the 80s,
Mhm.
the sitcom trope of the, how do I put it, broken family dynamic, where you have, it's not traditional mother, father,
Yeah. We did
kids.
start trying to do something different there. Yeah. Yeah.
You had Webster,
hmm
Different Strokes, Punky Brewster, My Two Dads.
I was just looking up what year My Two Dads came out, and that was 87. So yeah.
And tell me,
Giovanni Ribisi, I forgot he was in that. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go back and watch this now. Paul Reiser, because I love him. Anyway.
so tell me, how did My Two Dads could have easily been a sitcom about a gay couple?
Sure. We didn't broach that at all though.
No, and
No.
I feel like they completely missed the mark on that. Full House, it
Again,
works.
in that day and age, do you think they would have just tried to cancel it from family TV? I mean, we're trying to do it now. Jesus Christ, you know,
Oh,
like
we
you
can't
know,
have
but
that.
right. So I can almost see them not wanting to make it the star yet. Because that's
I don't
not
even wanna say it's
wholesome.
fair.
That's not, you know, it's not fair.
No, it's
And
not fair
I'm
at
sure
all.
plenty of people had that family makeup growing up in that day and age, but I mean, we didn't like to be too diverse yet,
No, and,
unless
and
they
we,
were butts of jokes or something like that, you know.
we still have people bitching about things today, which here's some. Yeah, I'm gonna tell this story. I told this story a little bit on, or did I? I don't remember. It may be on Horror Ramblings if you heard it, so sorry if I'm repeating. But this is
Sorry.
it's a valid point for this story and just
Okay.
complaining. So Katrina and I were watching the newest season of Superman and Lois, and one of the plot threads was that Lois got breast cancer. And that's a very interesting take because this is a disease that, I mean, what's Superman going to do about it? He can't
Right.
cure it. He can't fix it. So it puts him in a very human situation that he has to deal with emotionally because there's nothing he can do.
Right.
So he's coping,
and she's human. You're
Yeah.
gonna have to deal with that, yeah.
and she has to do the chemo. She has to go through all the terrible steps about it all. I remember seeing a comment on IMDb, you know, because they're so great over there, where someone was just like, "Oh my God, can we just stop with the cancer stories? I'm just so sick of it. Why don't we just go back to superheroing?" It's like, motherfucker, do you not understand what a narrative is?
I thought they were gonna call it woke for a second, just because they were trying to teach the lesson. I was like, they're gonna say it's woke, isn't it? But now it's not here.
But I'm sure they've said that about other things too within that context of that show, especially with the Arrowverse. Oh my God, how many times did I have to hear that? It was like, why does every character have to be gay? God. And it's like, does it affect you? Does it affect you at
Apparently.
all?
Apparently,
It never did me, you know.
No.
And the one thing I appreciated about all the Arrowverse stuff is that when a character was gay,
Mm-hmm.
they never made a big deal of it.
As
you know,
shouldn't. Yeah. Finally.
It wasn't
that was
just-
the problem then.
yeah,
We always had to make sure you knew this was my gay friend, blah, 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 and they were always very,
feminine.
I don't know what I was going to say. What's the PC term for it now? But yeah, the men always were very effeminate. The women were always butch.
Yeah.
We always had to put them in that, box.
But at some point, they just stopped doing that. It was just like, how do you feel? It wasn't even how do you feel. It was just like you met a character, you got to know them, and then you'd see they had a romantic interest
Their
in
boyfriend
someone.
walked in.
Yeah, and then it would just happen. It wasn't just like, hey, we're making a big deal of this thing. It was just like, are they gay? Well, they meet somebody, they have chemistry, boom, doom, and there's your answer. It wasn't just like, well, we've got to point this out to the audience and be like, huh?
Look how
Huh?
good we're being.
Yeah, it was
We
just
cast one, guys. Well, we cast someone to act like one, guys.
Right.
We're probably still not casting them yet, but
But it made the chemistry of the characters more natural. That you're not trying to point it out. And I appreciated the hell out of that so much, but yet it was never, oh God, I can't believe this person's got to come out as gay. It's like, well, they didn't. They just, found somebody that they really enjoyed the company of and they wanted to be with them.
yeah.
So,
yeah.
they
Sometimes
didn't-
that's all it is. Maybe they didn't think they were either until they found that one person that they just clicked with so well. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Let people love whoever they want to love.
And like you said,
Wow.
as we kind of mentioned before, in the 80s,
Yeah, that would
even
have
in the 90s,
really.
it was anytime that character came about, it was you
We made
had
sure you knew.
spotlight, and sometimes you do that trope very much in the same vein as I guess the trans episode that you mentioned about Night Court. It would always be they'd come in, they'd talk, and then suddenly there'd be that pass and be like, oh, what are you doing? It was like, well, I thought you knew. It was like,
Yeah.
no, and then they would just
Oh,
freak
yeah.
the fuck out.
And then they don't want to be friends with him anymore because clearly they're going to hit on you. That's what I always found funny about the whole, even guys that I grew up with and everything. And I'm like, everyone has a taste.
Yeah.
You may not be theirs. Like, do you hit on every woman you see? Do I hit on every man I see? Like,
Yeah,
there you
exactly.
go, guys. They may not even want you. Like, stop thinking just because, they're gay, like, oh, they're going to want me. Maybe not. They might find you gross.
Yeah. Not everything is about you, buddy.
No, it's not. Like that's just always what killed me. Was just like, ugh. And I'm like, what makes you think that they just automatically want to sleep with you? Like,
Yeah. Because
Give me
they
a
got
break.
it in their head that they're just awesome and
Yeah.
they're just so attractive, even though they have, a beer gut and their ass smells and
right?
You know.
And they noticed too,
yeah.
and they didn't want.
Everybody smells it, God damn it.
Yeah, right. All of us know, man. Like,
Take a shower. Buy some soap. Anyway.
something. Alone, even that. Yeah.
But yeah, it was always these big deals that everything had to be a spotlight shown upon it, just to be like, look what we're talking about, and it's important.
Yeah.
And again, at the time, maybe it was, that maybe they were trying to be more open about these conversations, but I don't know. When you compare it to how we're doing it today, how it's just natural.
Yeah.
You don't have to point it out. And I understand the representation, and I can't speak for the gay community, the LGBTQ. That's theirs, but from a heterosexual looking in, it doesn't make me feel uncomfortable in any way when it's brought up. I still find it quaint when you have certain people, and I know we've talked about it on a show from the old show about, I think it was in not the Walking Dead, The Last of Us, where you saw Bill and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
There
did that break people?
Oh, God.
Jesus. I didn't know it would be that rough in 2023, if I'm honest. And I figured there was going to be some people that lost their mind because they're still everywhere, but that many, I was just like, whoa, guys, simmer down. And it was such a lovely story, though. See, that's the thing. Turn that part of your brain off and get into the story. You know what? Some of my favorite on-screen romances are gay couples. Schitt's Creek, you will never take those two away from me. They're my most favorite couple I've ever seen ever, even in real life.
Absolutely.
I love them and I want nothing but the best for them.
Mm-hmm.
Do not take them away from me, you know? This flag means death.
Yeah.
Do not take that away from me, you know? Like, give it up, guys. Just get into the story and the people and the humans behind it, and you'll end up having a good time.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's something that's very relatable if they would allow it to be relatable, because you're too busy looking at, oh, it's two men, and I would say two women, but let's be real. What guy is going to complain about two women?
They don't, yeah, I know that is a very horrible way to go about it, you know?
But it's true. It
is-
true.
no, I know
They'll
it's
sit there
true.
and bitch and complain that you got two guys over here making out, but then if they see two
This is
women,
hot.
they'll just be like, oh, and it's like, okay, so tell me why it's different for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this okay and this is not? I don't
One
get
turns them on, one doesn't. That's pretty much all it is. You know?
Fair, but
two of the creatures I do love, two of the creatures I don't. Bleh. Ooh, you know.
okay, but you
The
know
bigotry between it is horrible, though. You should treat them
what?
both
Agreed.
the same. you know?
Agreed.
Like,
Hey.
those women don't want you hitting on them either. You know, like leave them alone.
I'll admit point blank, I do find two women making out extremely attractive. That's my preference, okay? It doesn't have to be everybody else. I'm
Right.
cool with it. But if I see it in every movie or TV show and every time I see it, am I just sitting there going, "Oh my god." No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. It's just like, cool for you. Same with two guys.
Yeah.
Cool for you. You are in love.
get
This is a great romance, and I'm all here for it. I'm happy for you. Star Trek Discovery. That's a show that I can kind of recommend, but it gets a little bumpy. One of the main characters in the show, it's like one of Star Trek's first openly gay couples, from what I know, and I love them to death. You know, just their interaction, their how the characters are in the show. I love it. There was never that. It's another one of the situations where they don't just be like, look what we did.
Look,
It's just like, here you are. And
I think we've gotten better with that, though. Like in the 80s and the 90s, I feel like we said, we always either had to point it out or it was the butt of the joke. Or at least that's how I remember it. Even with me watching some of the stuff that I used to love back then, going back to it now, I'm like, ooh, like just some things that just never really clicked. That clicks more now, you know, and I should have been even old enough to understand it then, but it was probably just like how the world was completely viewing it wasn't as effective yet, you know, like it just didn't, I don't know. But yeah, there's some that would just not fly at all now, I don't think.
There was, speaking of that show, another thing that they did, which I'll give them props for, but at the same time, how they, and again, I guess depending on how the situation goes, I can understand it. It's almost kind of going back to those old ways of outing gay people back in 80s sitcoms and TV shows. It almost felt very reminiscent of this and on how they approached it. But there was a new character that was introduced in, I think, the third season, and they are non-binary. That's the term I'm looking for. And when you first meet them, it's like you kind of get that sense, but you're not 100% sure. And they never really quite touch on it. And as you kind of get to know the character and as they start to get involved, you hear other people refer to them as she. And you're like, okay, so maybe I'm wrong. Okay, sure.
Right.
But then eventually they do address it. Like they come back around and be like, would you mind if you could just start referring to me as they or them? And they're like, oh, okay. And it's like, it was just kind of a quick moment. It was like, sometimes that's just how I feel. I've never quite felt this way. I've never quite felt that way. That's just how I feel. And they're like, okay, yeah, absolutely. And then
done, right?
From there on.
Isn't that how it should be?
Yeah.
Right?
You hear those.
You were polite in correcting us. I was going, oh, okay, thank you for the correction. I will do that moving forward. How easy that could be if all of us would just do that, right?
Exactly.
Like,
And I like the moment, but it also, like I said, it had hints of that from old days, the old television days where it was just how they kind of brought it up. But at the same time, I do kind of agree that you can't just assume
No.
one way or the other.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a good conversation to have in a very polite way,
right.
which we should
a
all
good
do.
example to set. Yes.
And for that character, how do I say this? Because I mean no offense by this at all. I'm trying to be as positive as possible. The character in that, the acting
You don't know
person,
if they're non-binary as the
Yeah.
actor. Okay.
that person is non-binary.
The actor is.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I feel like they are the best personification of a non-binary person. And what I mean by that is when I look at them, sometimes I see male, sometimes I see female. Like
They wear whatever they want. Yeah, whatever they feel like. Yeah.
the proper personification of a they.
Mhm.
And as I just kind of got to know them in the show, I was like, man, I wish I could. People could look at them the way I am and for it to just click.
Right. Just, Yeah.
To be
yeah.
like, I get it now.
Mhm.
I get it. You can't help it.
Right.
You
It-
feel
it's-
like how you feel, and
Right.
I don't know. I'm getting
yeah,
off on a
no,
tangent there, but
no, I feel you. There's been a couple actors that I've seen come forward or like I guess get more of their bigger moments over the last several years that I went, yeah. Mason Alexander Park is like a perfect example. I
oh
think, to
god,
me.
yes,
Like just a lovely actor, wonderful in everything they've done. Yes.
absolutely love
that
them.
just embodies whichever they're feeling like that day, both maybe even whatever, and I love it. And I love that they just don't talk about it,
Yeah.
like even in Quantum Leap, they say but that's it. We don't make this huge deal about it and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, see, that's what I think we need to see to normalize that thing. Cause they are everywhere. They're among you everywhere.
Mhm. And
it's how it is.
Yeah.
Like just live in it, be just, chill.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like the sooner it's just not pointed out,
Right.
acknowledged, sure, but not just pointed out to just be like, oh, look what we have here. We have a non-binary
Every time
person
they walk
working
into the
on our
room, we
team.
have to have some conversation about it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, did you know? Blah blah blah. It's like no, just
So yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up from Quantum Leap because perfect example, and I appreciated the hell out of it.
yes.
They are just part of the team,
It's just how it is.
and they did.
Another human being who's intelligent that works with us.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
And granted, they did kind of incorporate elements of it into an episode,
Sure.
but it wasn't to be like, oh, look at me. It was to relate to another character and kind of flesh that story out. So it worked. And it was the one time they kind of brought it up, and it wasn't just to be like, hey, look at me. It was
Right.
in service of the story,
Right.
and it worked. I appreciated it. TV, how it's grown.
It really has. It's really a huge leap from, what I remember as it starting in the 80s and everything to now. It's a huge, huge leap. The shape of it has changed, how the actors are with it. I mean, if you think about it now, big name actors aren't embarrassed to go on TV shows. You never really saw huge name actors wanting to do TV.
Right.
Like it wasn't as desirable. It wasn't the cool place to go. You wanted to be in the movies. And now we see them cast as just like the main characters in these TV shows. Granted, we're only doing like 10, 12 episodes, and they're like movies,
Right.
these days and everything. But like, yeah, it's I see them on streamers. Like they go to Netflix, they go to HBO, they go, like these people that you saw in cinematic experiences that you would have never caught in a sitcom or something in the 80s or 90s, maybe as a guest spot for a day or something, but like they wouldn't be on TV.
I mean, think about when Bruce Willis showed up on Friends. What a big event that was because people were like,
lost
oh
their
my
mind. Yeah, on a multicam sitcom.
God.
You know? Yeah. And then his character had to be such a horrible person to be around. But anyway, yes, events like that, it had to be an event.
And
Or,
looking at reboots, for example, now I can't speak to all of them, but we know that there are a lot of them out there. Or
Currently, yes.
so I'm trying to find others. Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap's a good one because
Yeah.
that was in the 80s too, right into the 90s.
Right.
So that's been rebooted.
So look at how they structured both shows. Now, granted, I appreciate both independently of one another and what they were doing, but they are completely different shows if you think about it in how they are presented. Quantum Leap, the original, you understood what the purpose of getting through time was all about,
Right.
but you mainly just stuck with Sam and Al and whatever leap he was on that week.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it. And then he would go wherever it was next week.
Wherever he left next. Yeah.
On occasion. And this is another thing I don't think we've talked about too. Anytime they wanted to do something big, it would always be the season finale or the season premiere. That would be when you do the big story moment that seemed very important but had no bearing on anything whatsoever going forward.
But we wanted to hook you to come back
It was like, oh,
in 3 to 4 months.
yeah. Sam's leaping home, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then you had to be there.
Yeah. And
So-
then you had to be home to see what happened next. Yeah.
So when you'd get those little glimpses, you had to be there for that episode. With the new show, we get to see it all. We get to see the team behind it. We get to see the guy leaping.
Yeah.
So
We don't even really know what's going on for a while. Like, honestly. Yeah.
So
Like, why is this even starting? Yeah.
and even technically with his leaps, if you think about it, they're not as involved as Sam's were because we don't get a full episode about a leap.
That's true. Like, we see his leap, what he's doing, but we're going back and forth between. It's an ensemble, basically. It's more of an ensemble cast,
Sure.
which I always enjoy the hell out of when you can find a really good ensemble cast. I will love that more than, a singular hero protagonist story any day, really.
Yeah. And that show works because of that, because they're doing the same thing, but in a different way.
Put their own twist on it a little.
Right.
Yeah. Make it your own.
So I can appreciate both of them for doing, for telling the same story, but in different ways.
Right.
They found a way to spruce it up a little bit because even everything outside of the leap, if they didn't have compelling stories, compelling characters, that could have dragged the whole show down.
Bombed easy.
Yeah, it would just be like, man, God damn it, why do we have to go back and bounce to these people that I don't care about?
Right.
But you have a great cast of people that you're rooting for. I love them all.
I do.
You know?
Yeah. I don't want you to take any of them out. They work very well together.
Right. I guess, all right, I'm also use Night Court as another example.
That has been rebooted too, yeah. And that as a multicam, we're not going for
Yeah, multicam, but they also, and this is, I felt like where it worked and it didn't. They really leaned back into trying to recapture the essence of the original
I only
show.
ever watched the first episode on the new one, to be fair. Like, just enough to go, okay, it's Night Court again.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I felt like,
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
You've got the same, not
Set,
identical,
basically, I feel
but
like.
essentially, yeah, basically the same sets, the same
Well, they
setups.
tried to rebuild it because isn't she like a daughter or
Yeah,
cousin or something of
She's Harry's daughter.
Harry's daughter? Okay, yeah. Like, walked into his office and, of course, too on the nose with Harry's stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, guys, come on. But, whatever.
But the characters are kind of interesting. I don't want to undersell it because you can find joy in it, I suppose. But I don't feel like they did anything so they didn't deviate from the formula that was already working, and then they just kind of added new characters.
They may do less sexist, yeah.
Well, okay, yeah.
They had to
For
definitely
sure.
update that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But all the other characters are similar archetypes that we saw in the original show. So you have the bailiff who...
I mean, you could have had Bull back, that's all I'm saying.
You could have. If I don't
Maybe
remember
you didn't
everybody's
want to.
character name from the show, it's because I haven't watched it. Gertie, or Gertz. Gertz, that's what they call her. She's the bailiff. She is almost like a combination of Roz and Bull. She's not dense like Bull, but she has those moments where she's a little flighty.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
she
okay.
also has that attitude that Roz had. So it's like they just found a way to take those elements and combine them into one person. Then the new prosecutor who is doing Dan's job. She kind of has Christine elements, but also
I could see that. Yeah.
some elements of other people. I wouldn't even call the what do you call it? Mac. What was his job? Court clerk.
Oh yeah, court report. No, I wasn't
Clerk.
even the reporter.
Was it a clerk?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, the one that was just like, "This is who's up next," you know, and handed them the paper. Yeah.
That guy who they have in this show now, there's nothing about him that really just makes you go, "Oh man, I like that character." He's just kind of a guy who
He's
kind of
just
fawns
trying to
over
fill that slot that they had before.
Yeah,
So they
and
felt
then
like they had to fill it.
they put in that little element to where he's kind of got a crush on Abby, and it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, I mean, do you feel the same way though? I feel like those kind of sitcoms don't hit the same anymore. Like they just don't come out with the same. I feel like they're all very much need the canned laughter, if you will. Like it's almost like they're not funny anymore. There's no clever writing to it. Very much relying on the canned laughter because it's like, was that just something about. I don't know if I can even put my finger on it because I'm not saying that these were cinematic masterpieces that we were just talking about that were going on in the 80s, for crying out loud. You watch it now and you cringe a little, but like something hits different with seeing like a new show trying to capture that formula that releases in 2023. Just say
No, yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I don't know if it's a matter of kind of being reintroduced to it and it's just not working the same, or if it never worked in the first place, because when you go back and watch some of those older shows, some work and some don't.
Yeah.
And they're all within the same kind of format. Like you said, the canned laughter type thing where it just, you're not sure if you should be laughing, but I can remember that 70s show. I know this is a 90s show, and it has kind of that multicam format, but it also doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something about it. I don't know what it's like. It
isn't
toes a
quite
line.
the same. Yeah. Like there is a set.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just how they shot it. And maybe it's where you do the spinny cam too and all that, where they're doing the circle. I
They
don't know.
put their own spin on doing that type of show.
Right.
See?
No pun intended.
Yeah.
But that show still hits for me. You know, like if you go back and watch it sometimes, I mean, I get good laughs out of it.
Oh, yeah.
But as you said, I don't know if every show with Night Court, I watched it from beginning to end and I got some chuckles out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess
It's
where
just,
you're
I can't put my
trying.
finger on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because I'll give some a shot because like the Hubs doesn't really care for that type of show, and that's fair. It depends on what it is. I can get into just about any kind of TV show, but I feel like every time I try to start one of those that looks like they're filmed in that way, there's no charisma. There's no real. I wish I could put my finger on it, but I have not been able to find one that's been released in the last like 10, 15 years that I thought was like legitimately funny, good. Well, that's not multicam though. I wouldn't call it anyway. Like the Real O'Neills, the way that was filmed, I don't think that was multicam, but that was freaking hilarious. And ABC, I think you messed up by canceling that. I don't know what your problem is. They mess up a lot, in my opinion, which is why I don't give ABC a lot of my time anymore. Because I'm like, sure, I'll love it. You're not going to keep it though.
Well, they're also the network that kept the Goldbergs on for a season longer than it needed to go, I feel.
I don't understand. But yeah, they had like 3 shows that I just absolutely adored. And when they canceled them, I was like, we're done here, ABC. Pushing Daisies, I gave you 1 mulligan on because of the writer strike that would happen then. And I feel like it just got lost in that because it only had like a season under its belt that didn't really get a chance. So fine. But today, these other ones, you can go F all the way off. Those were great. How do you get such good writing, such good ensemble cast, all of that, and then just go, no, we're going to cancel it and put on this reality show instead? I'm like,
Yeah.
am I really the only person with this type of humor? Like,
I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I hadn't really noticed that, but you're absolutely right. ABC's comedies, they're all the single cam, you know.
and they're
just-
usually great, and then they
Oh, yeah.
cancel them. I just don't understand. Like, Mixed-ish, maybe you didn't care for it. I did. Thought it was fun. Gets canceled. Blackish, I think, ran its course, though, right? Like, the
I
way
think so,
it was
yeah.
supposed to, you know? And I do think it's funny they keep doing ishes, you know? It's like there's been several others after Mixed-ish, Blackish, and then I want to say there was something else, 2 other ones. But, yeah. But they weren't filmed in that way. But they were definitely a sitcom.
Right.
It was like a half-hour comedy. you know, so maybe that makes the difference. You didn't feel like you were sitting in front of a live audience kind of feel. But the Connors came back and I still feel like that works. Maybe it's because I remember from Roseanne. I know if that's taboo to talk about her or whatever, but regardless, you know, I liked that show back in the day. I liked the dynamic. I didn't care for her nearly as much, but I thought they were all kind of fun together. I still think it kind of works, even without her there.
Oh,
Oddly.
yeah, for sure.
I didn't think it would, but the rest of them carry it well enough. And maybe it's just because I have enough of a connection to the characters from 20, 30 years ago that sometimes they still really make me laugh. And that dude that they got Darlene's to be Darlene's husband, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's canned laughter. They even say recorded in front of a live studio audience like they used to.
I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about, that's one of the shows that is actually working. And so, why does that work? And why does... Again, I'm not knocking Night Court, but like I said, it doesn't hit the same.
Maybe it's just something to do with having that same cast that you can fire that
Sure.
same magic with, because I think they didn't replace anyone in the Connors, right? So, I mean, they brought the old Becky back finally, but they kind of went back and forth with her before the series ended because, like, it was real Becky, new Becky, real Becky, because they thought, you know, the show was going to end then, but then they went another season and got the other Becky back. So it was like a Becky mess. But now it's the original Becky back. So you have all of the same people, but you added in, of course, like significant others, kids, whatever, since they're all older. But yeah, for some reason, I still like it. I didn't know that I would, even with after taking her out of it, because I was like, it's a huge call to make. It was her name, her show, you know, but it still works.
So many other people involved, and I think that's where it needs to come down to. Like I said,
ensemble cast.
Yeah. That's why it's the Cosby Show is such a...
I know that's a taboo one to talk about now too, but you still can't deny the impact that show had.
Yeah.
And how well loved it was, how many people sat in front of their TVs every time it came on. You know, the show itself, if we can, you know, just separate it out from all of the other garbage that's come along with it, was done well.
Yeah.
It was a fun show, fun family show. And you didn't get to see a family of color really on TV take off that way at that time. So it was just all around of, you know, it was a big deal show. It is a shame that it's attached to this now, but like, if you can separate it and just try to appreciate that moment in time. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say appreciate all the other people involved.
For sure.
The hell with him.
Too.
You know, I understand
they're
he's
suffering for it more because they're not getting any residuals or anything anymore, but that's another topic. But
yeah. But fuck him. Mm-hmm. For everybody else, that's always one of the main things I always want to kind of touch on. Anytime I bring that up, they were just as much a part of it as he was.
Yep.
They had their roles, and I guarantee you, outside of him, I guarantee you, so many people could point out, oh, this is what Denise meant to me. This is what Theo meant to me. This is what Elvin and Sandra meant to me. This is what Claire meant to me.
Right. Yeah.
And they have memories attached to that and what those characters did for them. I mean, I'm just so happy to see. Speaking of Cosby Show alum, Malcolm Jamal Warner, I'm seeing him pop up everywhere.
Finally coming back. Yeah, good for him. Like, he was always good. I just wonder if it was just roles or something. Or maybe I just didn't follow enough people. Because sometimes I'll often wonder where actor so-and-so went. And I'll go check them out. And I'm like, oh, they've just been doing a lot of like theater, indie work, stuff that I was just not... Somehow didn't land in front of my eye holes with the way commercials are played these days. I don't really see them. So, good for him.
I'm glad to see him doing some sitcom stuff. He was just in another reboot, The Wonder Years. Yeah? He was
The Wonder Years. I've not tried the reboot. I feel like the other one is just too near and dear to my heart that I don't wanna. I don't wanna.
I would recommend it. I would recommend it because they are not trying to.
They just stole the name. Is that it?
It's still kind of the same format because the kid that you're following, he has the narration in his head, kind of like narrating where he's at now in his life versus what it was like for him as a kid. But since you're focused on a black family in Alabama.
Oh boy. What year though are they setting it in?
1968, I think is when it starts.
Okay.
So
that's a different dynamic completely.
Exactly. So you have a different everything is familiar in that sense. Like I even think the house, the only part of it that would even be reminiscent of the old show is their dining area. You remember how they used to sit around the table and it was just that little spot? Everything from that point looks very much like the original house of the Arnolds, but beyond that, nothing is the same. So I just, and everybody brings their A game. They're making, no one feels like they're trying to be those characters.
I think I've got reboot fatigue. That could be it too.
And I can understand
because
that.
Again, like the sheer volume of them over the last several years has just blown my mind. Like a Walker Texas Ranger reboot. And then we had Quantum Leap. And then we have, well, we were just talking about the Wonder Years. And I know there's like several other that's escaping my mind right now, but it was just like one after the other, after the other, after the other. That, yeah, I was just like, is this the 80s again? I'm really, because like NBC, I think, is the biggest culprit. I feel like they've rebooted everything they've ever shown since they started. And
even took on a reboot from another network. Magnum PI.
Oh God, you're right. See, who's playing Magnum PI now?
I have no idea.
Who's the main guy?
I have no idea.
I mean, he's still around, but he probably just can't do it as well. I don't
probably
know.
Not.
Anyway, tangent. But yeah,
I would recommend it. Check out the first episode if it hooks you. If it's going to hook you there or not. So you'll watch it and you'll be like, okay, maybe. Or you're just going to be like, nah, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it doesn't try to do anything outside of the basic structure. The outside structure is just a guy narrating his life when he was younger. That's it. Everything else, completely fresh and new. They don't try to replicate anything. And I appreciate that. It's
interesting why they had to use the Wonder Years, though, I guess just for that name recognition, like to try to get people to want to come back, maybe hit a nostalgia bump. Go,
Probably. I know he's fucking people and their bad behaviors. I know Fred Savage is not as well beloved anymore because he's...
What did he do? Did I miss something?
He did something. I can't remember what it was. He was responsible for getting this reboot back off the ground, and I think he directed some episodes in season 1, but then some shit behind the scenes happened where he said some shit or did some shit, and then it was just
I think I might kind of vaguely remember now or something, like he was kind of tough to work with backstage and might have said some untoward things. That's unfortunate because I think he's funny. I know he had a show with Rob Lowe not too long ago. It only made it one season, unfortunately, but I thought that was another one that was just freaking gold. Like him and Rob Lowe could play off of each other so well. It was amazing. It was probably on ABC. It's probably why it got canceled after a season. But I can't remember what it was now.
But in any case... Now, again, talking out of, I don't know, I have no room to talk within certain experiences here, but from where I'm standing, I don't feel like Fred Savage needs to be the showrunner and flagship person for this Wonder Years, if you kind of catch my drift. If you're talking about an African-American family who grew up in a time when, shit wasn't good for them.
Right, yeah.
During civil rights movements and whatnot, I feel like you need black voices.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, if he wants to put in the money, fine, and then let, the other people who would have more experience with the actual stories to tell, please, give them all the money you want. I don't care, though. You want to make it work? Give them all the money, but let them do it, yeah.
But even then, I mean, I don't feel like the show goes out of its way to be like, well, if you're not black, we're not going to involve you or you can't relate to this. Everything is very relatable. Hell, I relate to the dad sometimes. And even as hard as he is, like, I remember my dad kind of being that type of way. I know it's not apples to oranges comparison of the time period, but there are that type of
There's dad moments that you will always be able to relate to, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. It's like, what's wrong with you? Turn off that light. Turn off the water. What are you doing? You wasting money. Come on. And it's like, Yes, I get it now.
Turn off the damn lights.
Like,
yes.
Anyway, but we got off on another tangent. I'm sorry.
But still within topic, so I feel that's more forgivable.
And look, we've gone way longer than I expected we would go with this topic.
True, because we probably could say a heck of a lot more too. Also.
Oh yeah, we could keep going.
I'm sure I could keep thinking of things. But yeah, I mean, I guess like the TLDR of all of this is like, it's really, I think we had a lot of more family centric focused, like probably And I know there was a lot of serial dramas too. I don't want to like take that out of the mix or whatever, but I feel like they were more prevalent for the multicam sitcoms. Family, you had to have a lesson that we learned at the end of each episode kind of stuff then to now where I feel like they're just trying to be funny, but there's really no point. And I could just be being harsh and maybe I've just not clicked on the correct one, but I still give them a shot when new ones come out these days because I did like that format. I just feel like that magic, there's just something that's not coming across now that it used to. And maybe we're just over it. Maybe people have just, that's just not the way we can do it. Maybe we have run out of ideas on how to make that funny in that format in front of an audience. Maybe we just don't have the people who know how to write those things as well anymore either. And maybe they're not because they're not getting paid well enough. I mean, there could be that too. Like, oh, you hired me for 2 days, so this is, you get what you get, you know?
Right.
Since we're in another strike, you know?
No, I can 100% agree with that. And I don't know. I mean, it's I don't want to knock at any point that those shows didn't work or they were less than, because the formulas worked. Some of those shows lasted. It blew my mind because I even I was looking this up yesterday for random reasons. Murder, She Wrote went on for 12 seasons. 12 full seasons.
Yeah. That back when we had 23 to like 25 episodes per season, that was what you got.
Yeah.
Each week from like August to May.
Yeah. So we're talking like 200 and some odd episodes of this show that went for over a decade.
Yeah.
And I guess it worked. I mean, had
clearly. Well, like even Full House, I think was like 8 years, which I felt was kind of crazy for that kind of setup show, you know, to last that long. You know, it wasn't until you got to like Friends where you were seeing like that they made it a decade for that kind of show. You know, the only other one I could think that's made it that long in recent times was like Supernatural. It was like 15 years or something like that. It was like a ridiculously long amount of time.
Right.
But yeah,
I think what it comes down to is if you can tell a story proper and you can make it captivating, just make a good show, you know?
Right.
And this right now with the writer's strike and everything going on, it worries you that we can't get quality television. And it can be like the old days. It can be like some of the stuff that we've evolved into now, but just make it compelling.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And stop trying to shoehorn in everything that you think you need to shoehorn these days too. So it's just like, just tell your story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever be able to capture that same taped in front of a studio audience type sitcom again. And I could be wrong. I mean, someone in the future could be very smart in how they deal with something, some idea like that, even if it's just to make fun of the whole situation, you know? Oddly, this was probably on ABC too. Reboot, which I think got canceled. Again, fantastic show that I'm just like, what are you guys doing? This was great. You had amazing actors that had good camaraderie with each other and everything. But see how they approached it was kind of making fun of the fact that they all used to be in that canned like sitcom type thing. And behind the scenes of them rebooting that show.
Yeah.
Clever. And he had Paul Reiser and all these people in it that were just hilarious and funny. And I still just can't understand why it didn't continue. Like, I just can't. You had gold. But again, I must be the only one with this type of humor that watches, or I'm among that very, very minor few. I can't understand why you would get canceled. And
even the people behind the snes, there were some known names. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, they had like, I don't even know why Keegan Key was in it.
No, I was talking about like producers and writers and stuff. I thought like they had some like well-known name that people were like, oh yeah, that guy, he writes great stuff.
You might
like,
be right.
Like Aaron Sorkin, but not Aaron Sorkin. But you know, he's one of those writers that people know. Yeah,
I mean, it was great. It really was great writing.
I thought so too.
They did well, and I can't understand. I'll never understand why it's not gonna make it through. And of course, it's not saying it on this.
All right, well, Wiki. maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
And it's probably the first time I saw Johnny Knoxville in something where I was like, he didn't annoy me, so that was really good. He's a special taste, and he was never mine. But I I don't know. Maybe later life Johnny Knoxville I'll appreciate. Kind of like Hugh Grant. I'm enjoying late life Hugh Grant more than I did early life Hugh Grant.
Yeah, Johnny Knoxville needs to stop doing stunts and shit. He's going to die.
I think he finally has. I think he's finally realized his body can't handle all of it anymore. And I think he's sober too, right? Like he sobered up and all that. So there you go. Maybe he's just boring now. But he's funny.
He can be funny. It just you don't need all that crazy jackass stuff. It's fine.
Hey, people loved it, and that's fine. It was just not for me. It was just 100% not my cup of tea for humor. I don't think just, hurting each other and doing stupid things is funny. But
I agree.
Y'all do what y'all got to do.
Well, we won't keep you any longer, siblings.
Yeah.
I know we've gone. Again, we didn't even expect this conversation to go this long.
Yeah, I think it was like an hour, maybe a little over.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Tell us. What do you think? Which show did you, if you're young enough, did you have any fun ones? Or are you the type that likes to go back and watch old ones? Is there one that maybe we didn't mention that you were like, haha, this is a good example of whatever you guys just said? Let us know. Discord, the X's, I guess. We might still be on the X's.
Yeah.
That's what I'm calling it now.
Yeah.
Because it might be my ex. Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah, do that. On all our social media things are down below. I've added I guess I need to change the name on that, don't I? X. Christ.
I know all of us have to change the logos and shit now.
Anyway, that's down there along with all the other platforms we've added since then. So if you want to join us over there, and hopefully we'll just start migrating. I'm still trying to, because there's a lot, I'm trying to post up everywhere, but there's just a lot.
There's a lot of places y'all want to listen at. So
I'm trying my best to make sure everything's out there that you can click on. If you don't want to do the social media stuff, we still got email, supermegacrash@gmail.com, still the same. Support the show over on Patreon, Pencil Paper Productions. I can post up episodes early. We can start doing that. In fact, I'll start doing that so you can get access to the show early. And if you want to hear it early, bam, you got it. What do you say, a week? You want to do a week early?
I think that sounds fair.
Yeah, you get new episodes a week early. How's that?
Yeah.
So, and then you can tell all and it's not going to cost you an ass ton of money. We're not going to ask you for,
I don't know. Ask Bunny. I bet she's still doing well, right? Bunny's still good. Yeah.
So, we're not, just take a look at the tiers. Maybe I need to go back and polish it up. It's been a while since I've been on there because no one ever subscribes.
It's hard to keep track of all the things anymore, though, to be fair. Everybody wants us everywhere. And I'm like, I don't know where everywhere is.
Help me. Anyway.
Yeah.
But, if you're liking what we're doing now and you didn't do it before, that 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice, whether it be Apple, Spotify, Good Pod, wherever it's popular.
There's lots of them. Yeah. Whatever you like.
Help us grow. Help us go to the top of the rankings.
The nonsense window. We want the top of the nonsense window.
Yeah. I would love to be number 1 on that list one time.
Yeah.
It would be great.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is
just it.
Hit the 5 stars. That's all you got to do. Hit the 5 stars.
I mean, I can only do it so many times, guys.
We're limited.
We're limited.
And then we can try to go through these little crevices and just be like, here, I'll create this account. But then we're just
all
faking.
These bot accounts.
It's like, look at us faking our
Faking
likes.
it till we make it, right? That's probably what they meant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can keep up with any and all things over at pencilpaperproductions.com/supermegacrash. I probably need to add those other social media sites over there as well, but links are in the show notes down below if you just, for convenience sake, join us again next week, siblings. But until then, go beyond your limits.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.